So I want to kick this video off by saying thank you all for being patient when it comes to my audio situation. I did have a new microphone. That mic is not working anymore when it comes to hooking up to the phone. My Rode mic isn't working anymore, so I just got to eventually get a new one. But money situation's kind of tight right now, and like a microphone is like way down on the list in terms of what I need, in terms of money situations. But I just wanted to say that because I really appreciate all the subscribers and everybody that's sticking to watching the videos, even though the audio quality is completely dipped from my other videos earlier in the year. So I'm very sorry about that. But in today's video, it's going to be a fun one because we are going to be discussing some of my most controversial horror opinions. I've done a horror hot takes video before. I've also been on the Voices from the Mausoleum podcast. If you want to go check out that live stream, we did a horror hot takes live stream. That was a lot of fun. Me and Angel and Steve and Radar were on that. So that was a huge, monumental moment in terms of being on the live streams and stuff and just doing stuff with other content creators and everything. But today we're going to talk about, like I said, some other controversial horror opinions that I have. So let's get into this video. Roll it. When it comes to horror, that is my favorite genre of movies. I love diving into franchises. I love predominantly most of the content that I enjoy is horror stuff. I would say like 70% of like either the books I read or the movies or TV shows I watch are horror centric. But of course, there are controversial horror opinions that I have. I've been digesting this stuff since I was like 6 or 7 years old. And when it comes to that thing, you realize that it's okay to have your own opinion. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying this is the right way to think. Please shout out down below in the comment section, of course, some of your controversial opinions. But when it comes to horror, there's a huge fandom for certain franchises or certain things that just grow big and big and big. And that's to show you the love of that, certain topic or that certain franchise or that character or whatever, it's that kind of thing. And but it could also be toxic something too, because especially with social media now, people just kind of shun you for having certain opinions, or they like will totally attack you, or block you or whatever, or you can cause a Twitter frenzy. I'm not on Twitter, but you can cause a Twitter frenzy with one tweet saying certain things about the Scream franchise or certain things about the Halloween franchise. Those are two specific ones that are very high up there when I talk to people, or like you see the discourse online and stuff like that. But when it comes to horror movies, I adore this. I adore this genre, but like I said, these are just opinions that I have, things that would make certain franchises or certain things better. So let's get into this. First, we're going to start off with the Scream one. I know this is a hot button topic because the Scream franchise is booming. We're going to be having Scream 8 pretty soon. They are currently, I think, writing that film, and Scream 7 is a hot button topic because it was kind of a mixed bag film. You know what I mean? There were some really cool things about it, but it had a very lackluster third act. But for me, as a horror fan, my most controversial horror opinion about Scream is that I think Sidney Prescott should have died a long time ago. Now, hear me out. Like, I know that's something like a lot of Scream fans are freaking out right now, and horror fans are like, what? How could you say that? She's one of the most iconic final girls of all time. She deserves a happy ending. All these things. For me, I just think the Scream franchise, would have been better if we moved on from Sidney Prescott. Eventually, when we find out that Scream 4, that the one of the original endings for Scream 4 was that she was supposed to die. Sidney Prescott was supposed to die, and Emma Roberts' character was supposed to move on, was supposed to be the only killer to ever, kind of successfully be the ghost face and, kill Sidney Prescott and then become famous, like all that stuff. That was the original ending for Scream 4. So it's not, unfathomable to think. We've had the big wigs, the writers, the people, Kevin Williamson, Wes Craven, they have all thought, rest in peace, Wes Craven, we love you. They have all thought that we have chances to move on from Sidney Prescott. And for me, I think the franchise would have been better if we moved on from her. Another controversial horror opinion I'm going to have is that Freddy Krueger, I think it's time to realize that Robert Englund isn't the only person that could be Freddy Krueger. I do get that this one is going to be kind of a stinger too, and one that's going to hurt a lot of fans, and they're going to be like, what the hell? They might come at me in the comments. But when it comes to any character. I'm talking about any character, even Tim Curry. I love you, Tim Curry, but we have seen Skarsgård step into the role and do the Pennywise role. And I think it's time to realize that as horror fans like Robert Englund, I don't think he's coming back. I'm not saying he can't do it. I think he can still do another film, and it would be serviceable if they made a good script and put good characters around him and all this stuff. But I really feel like that it's time to realize as a horror community that we can move on from Robert Englund, and it's time to crown a new champion of Freddy Krueger. I don't really know what's going on too much with the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. I kind of feel like the creators or the people who own the rights to that they're waiting to see how the Camp Crystal Lake TV show goes, how the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, how they tackle it with the TV show and a movie. And I think Nightmare on Elm Street, I feel like in the next 3 years, we could hear some information about possibly a new Nightmare on Elm Street film coming out. Now, another controversial horror opinion I have, this one's going to kind of go against the grain because as a horror fan and as a movie fan, I'm a sequel whore. I always champion sequels. If you're new to the channel, that's one thing that I always call myself. I crown myself one of those things because I will always go back to watch sequels to see if they improve on the concept or take the idea that I love and they do something wild and crazy with it, or if they just crown a new really good sequel that's in the same universe kind of thing. But when it comes to the Exorcist franchise, I think this is a franchise that should never have been a sequel. This one hurts a little bit too because I think Exorcist 3 is the best film in this franchise. So, going with what I'm saying right now, if Exorcist never became a franchise, we would never have Exorcist 3 in our universe. So, I understand that, and that kind of goes against the grain of me being a lover of that film. But I think the Exorcist franchise, like for what it did with that first film, it set the bar so high that you could never meet that, even though they did, for me, in my opinion, they did with Exorcist 3. But now we've been, for years and years now, we've had a TV show. We've had so many entries in this franchise, and now we're having Mike Flanagan, who is a really good director and writer, coming in to do the next entry, and we have Scarlett Johansson's going to be in it. So it's really interesting, and it keeps the people going back for more. But for me, I think this is a franchise that in the horror world, I think probably would have been better if it didn't exist or they didn't keep making sequels. Now, it wouldn't be a Nornrad 89 video and a horror opinion video if we didn't talk about some Friday the 13th. I already kind of threw some shade at some other franchises or talked about them, but not hating on them or anything like that. But when it comes to Friday the 13th, my most controversial horror opinion is that I think we could change the mask. That's one thing that's a huge thing. I know people, the hockey mask is the most iconic thing for Jason Voorhees, or one of the most iconic things. Another thing is kind of Friday the 13th, the title as well, but the music is another huge thing, the score. But I think it's time to realize that we could have Jason in other masks. We've already had a sackhead Jason. We've had that multiple times, and we've had Jason in the hockey mask before. We've even had Jason have that chrome mask. And so I think it's time to realize that even with a new film or a new franchise or what they're setting up, it's possible to have a Jason Voorhees in a universe that changes his masks. Maybe the hockey mask gets broken during one of the movies or in the new TV show. Maybe we'll see it like he uses it at first, but then one time it gets broken and then he uses a different mask or pulls on the sack head. I think it's just really one of those things that it is very iconic, but we need to realize too that you could move on from that and you could design and create a new style of Jason Voorhees. We've even seen it in the video games too. Tom Savini did a very cool black mask for the Jason Voorhees game. So I think it's time to realize we can actualize that stuff and realize that stuff in the actual films and the TV show that's coming out. And that's the perfect thing is I think with the new generation and the new fans of these horror franchises, it's okay to take risks and move on. This is, to me, the best time. And I know a lot of people, a lot of writers, a lot of creators and producers out there, they are hearkening on the nostalgia bait, and they're really buying into that concept and betting on nostalgia, pulling people in for money and tickets. Scream 7 is a huge example of that. But when it comes to the future, I think these creators need to realize that we have so many young fans of this horror, genre, and that it's okay to take risks and move on and do, like I said, a new design for Jason. It doesn't have to be a completely new mask, like not a hockey mask, but we can have a different style hockey mask. I mean, on the Friday the 13th VHS covers, like we've had different style hockey masks that were never even in the film, on a VHS cover for a Friday the 13th film. So that's what I'm talking about. It's okay to take those risks, I think, with these future films or projects that we're deciding to do with Jason Voorhees. But these are just my thoughts and my opinions, some controversial horror opinions. Please shout out down below in the comments section what are some that you think or that you have. And also, if you do like this video, like this video, please let me know by dropping a like on the video and sharing it, so that way I'll probably pop out possibly a part 2 to this video. But most importantly, you all know what's up. Have a safe and happy day. Peace out.